Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vaga Muradian here in Doha, Qatar, where we're covering the Doha International Maritime Defense Exhibition and Conference, DIMDEX 2018, and our coverage here is sponsored by DIMDEX 2018, and we're over here talking to Gene Cunningham, who is the Vice President for Global Sales at Boeing Defense, Space and Security. Gene, thanks very much for taking time for us.
Pleasure to be here today.
You've been exceptionally busy talking to all manner of customers. Talk to us a little bit about your priorities here. Obviously, the F-15 contract was a real big win for you guys, but the customer also has bought the competing aircraft, so I have a question about that in a little bit. But talk to us a little bit about some of your key priorities here in Qatar, and then also your key priorities across the region.
So as you look at the Qatar defense and security needs, they've purchased already the C-17, the Apache AH-64, as well as the F-15. They're now looking at what they may need in terms of tanking capability, what they may need in terms of vertical lift, as well as other unmanned systems as well. And so what we see is an opportunity to have conversations about the KC-46, which we hope to be delivering to the U.S. Air Force later this year, and certainly the CH-47, which has been the backbone to defense needs around the world. As you look into the region, you can see that Boeing has a very extensive installed base. Again, C-17, the Chinook, the Apache, the F-15, the F-18, as well as our weapons and our unmanned systems are all present here in the region. As those systems are operated in the region, we see opportunities, one, to add to the quantities that are here, as well as the opportunity to offer those solutions to other nations in the area.
Let me ask you, the KC-46 is obviously a priority program for the company. It's gone a little bit more slowly than I think everybody had wanted. And I know you guys have been working that. We interviewed General Sharpie, and he, who's the deputy commander at Air Mobility Command. And one of the things that he said is, look, we're just hoping for this thing to come online as quickly as possible. There are other folks who've been talking to us about challenges with the boom and the business end of the airplane. Talk to us, do you guys have confidence that you're going to see this through and be able to deliver it to the customer soon?
Yes, absolutely. We see the deliveries beginning this year and then continuing for the entire requirement that the U.S. Air Force has, moving out over 170 airplanes total in the requirement. And so we see that beginning this year and then continuing on with a fully operational executable program.
Since you do global sales of all of the products in the portfolio, when it comes to the tanker, what are you guys estimating in terms of sales on this? Because it is a high-end item. Countries tend to buy them in relatively small quantities. You guys now also have a competitor in the form of Airbus that has its version of the aircraft out there. When you guys look at the overall market, how much more legs do you, how large, how big of a program is that going to be on the international market, do you guys think?
In terms of quantity, I think the first thing you do is you look at the existing nations that have tanking capability today. Also, you look at where you have seen coalition operations and the need for tanking capability for extended duration, cap missions, for being able to provide surveillance and communication capabilities. So where the market is today versus where the market will be in 5 or 10 years is we see it evolving. We see actually the market growing for tanking capabilities because of the need of each of these defense and security opportunities to expand on what is required to be sustained in an airborne platform. So if you started with just the basic nations who have tanking capability today and then add to that where you may find coalition operations, where you may find extended surveillance requirements, that's where you would find the tanking market grow. First of all, it's the existing tanking capability, and then look at where the additional security needs are. So we see this market as a growing market over time, not a shrinking market. Also like to point out that the tanking capability and the cargo capability of the KC-46 is indeed unique. the ability of the airplane to provide extensive amounts of fuel, but also to provide the cargo necessary, give it that dual mobility capability that doesn't exist today in any of the products that are out there.
So do you look at it as scores or hundreds of airplanes?
I think you're probably working in the low hundred international numbers out there in the total marketplace, but that would be about 50% of what the U.S. Air Force is flying today.
Right, and it's nice business if you can get it. It's going to be billions and billions of dollars in business. Let me bring you back to the region. There were a lot of folks who were looking at the F-15 as something that was going to be phasing out of production. I think even you guys looked at that, even though hope always springs eternal. But now you have a new lease on life on the airplane, and every product that gets a sale gets some momentum behind it. As that certainly was the case with the Rafale, which many people didn't think was going to get traction. It did. Once it did Egypt, then you saw a whole bunch of other orders happen. As you guys are looking at the global market for the 15, but other aircraft that are in your fighter portfolio, where do you see that going?
So for both the F-15 as well as the FA-18, both airplanes are extremely capable aircraft that we have provided consistent technology updates to over the life of the programs. Where both airplanes are today is they are providing the most capable, the most advanced AESA radars, electronic warfare systems, as well as weapons integration. So as an aircraft able to provide defense and security for any nation out there, the F-15 and the F-18 are the most current, most capable, and combat-proven aircraft that are available today. As you look at the future, the process that we have gone through to continuously upgrade and improve these aircraft is one that are continuing with our customers, whether it's on the international marketplace or on the domestic side. These upgrades and these capability enhancements continue to move forward with each customer that we have.
And do you feel comfortable saying how many numbers and what markets you think these aircraft are going to be most attractive in, say in the next 5 years or so?
Let's see, I think you'll find that in the Middle East and Asia, there are clear capability needs that are documented today. As you look at Europe, you're going to see equally enhancements to defense and security needs that are out there, and you're seeing that in the announcement of upgrades to capabilities in certain nations. Switzerland, Finland, and Germany have all announced that they are looking at new fighter programs and enhancements to the fleets that they have today. So that opens the market up literally around the world for these aircraft and their future derivatives.
All eyes are on the F-35 program? Obviously, the United States government has been pushing that really strong. Not that you're not getting support, but that is a very large multinational program. Talk to us a little bit about what kind of challenge that gives you on the competitive marketplace. Where do you see your advantages? Because there are folks who say, well, that's got stealth. It has the sensor suite and a whole bunch of other things. Where do you see your competitive advantage in that dynamic?
So the advantage is in the pairing of all of these aircraft and providing the capabilities. Each aircraft is designed for its specific mission set, for its capabilities, and when you go to look at what the defense and security needs are for a nation, a coalition, or a region, you'll find that the F-15 and the F-18 have equally important roles to fill as an F-35 may have in providing the defense and security to any nation that's out there. So we don't see it as a competitive issue. We see it as a tremendous pairing of total capabilities that create the best defense and security solution for a nation.
Let me ask you two last quick questions. One is, this is a very, very different customer that is acquiring high-end aircraft that normally you guys are on the market trying to kill each other. Buying 15s from you, the Eurofighter nations got their success, and then the French obviously won with the Rafale. That means that there are 3 aircraft that are used to killing each other, figuring out how to communicate with each other. What are each of you doing, and how are you doing this communication process with the Qatar Emirati Air Force to make sure that all of these platforms, when they go into service, are going to be seamlessly interoperable?
the issue that you raise is one that is the question for the nation at hand, and generally that is satisfied by the requirements that are laid down by the customer. And so what we are addressing are the communication, the interoperability issues that have been raised by the customer, and then trying to provide that solution back to the customer to make sure that it meets the needs of that individual nation.
Although it would make a really neat working group to have you guys all on sitting around the same table and not trying to kill each other. Let me ask you one last question. Almost every nation in the world is trying to build up its own indigenous capabilities. Qatar's no different. You know, you look at what Barzan Holdings is doing in terms of the joint ventures. That's also to be able to get IP, build up local industry as part of a national effort that spans from the education system to the military forces. Talk to us a little bit about how you guys are balancing that, how you guys are working together. And the other adjunct question I would have is, everybody in this region is very, very sensitive, especially given sort of the background embargo that's going on against Qatar. Talk to us a little bit, you know, on both sides. One is, you know, on the industrial side and what you guys are doing there, and the second is how, if any way, the blockade issue and the crisis between Saudi Arabia and its allies and Qatar are manifesting themselves in how you guys are doing business in the region.
So when you look at the objective of Boeing Defense, Space, and Security, what we are trying to do is match our customer requirements, provide them the best capability we can, and provide it at an affordable and effective solution. In many cases, as you point out, that's not just the product itself, but it is the aftermarket support as well as the security of supply going forward. So in each case, we look at what the customer is asking for, we look at the capabilities that are present in that particular country, and then try and match up the capabilities that are present with those desired end states, which is effective solution, reliable and available, and then affordable. And as you put all those together, you need to address that security supply. It's no different here in Qatar than it is in any other nation that we are dealing with around the globe. Providing that solution is that matching of those capabilities and those interests. So you'll see those type of actions being taken by us here in Qatar as well as in other countries around the world. As far as the collaboration is concerned, we work with the U.S. government, we work with the customer government, and we work through whatever those directions are in terms of what the collaboration and coordination needs to be.
And how do you respond? You know, it's funny that there are some analysts who have been saying, well, you know, if you're going to do business with one country, then you're going to lose business in another. Do you see that at all in any of the conversations you have? Because you spend quite a lot of time in this region. Have you seen any sort of challenge like that, or are you pretty much continuing a pace to support, you know, all of the countries in the region?
First and foremost, for a U.S. company, we need to remind folks that this is a foreign policy action, foreign policy tool of the President of the United States. And so as you see the United States trying to work around the globe, you'll see where we are able to find those pairings that seem to make sense. Beyond that, it is a nation-to-nation issue, but it's not something that is immediately apparent to us at this point.
Gene, thank you so very much. We really appreciate it. I know how busy you are and how generous you've been with your time. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you one of these days, actually not on the road, but in Washington.
Appreciate that, Vago, and it's been a great pleasure meeting with you. Thank you.